Hey everybody, JJ here, Bull to the Bust. It is Sunday, November 29th, 2020. I wanted to put this out here today. We've got a lot of news to cover. We're going to talk about economic predictions and how these economists, a lot of the economists that have won awards and prizes, a lot of them have been very, very wrong about their predictions. And we're going to look into 2021. We're going to talk about the average American, the working class, and the struggles. We're going to talk about corporations, bankruptcies, and where these markets and where this economy may be headed. But first of all, please hit that subscription button if you haven't done it already. And don't forget the notifications. I mentioned this earlier, but a lot of people are saying they're not getting notified about our videos. And it seems like there's something happening right now where the views are dropping and dropping and dropping. All right, and also I just put out a Patreon video earlier, so if you're a Patreon or if you'd like to support me, just type in Bull Boom Patreon, and my page should come up. It'll be to the left panel. Type in Bull Boom Patreon to the search engine of your choice, and go to this home page right here, and go to the left panel. You click this little banner here, and that'll take you to exclusive content. And we do more face-to-face over there, and cover some topics that are considered unfriendly here on this platform. Thank you, everybody. Let's get into the news. Let's talk about bankruptcies. At El Costa 379 tweeted out the following: the number of bankruptcy filings in 2020 has already passed the peak levels of the financial crisis. And we see with still 1 month to go here in 2020, we're already beyond where we were at the peak in the financial crisis. We see that 2009 was the worst year for bankruptcies. Now look at this chart and ask yourself, what's going to dig this country out of this economic mess? Is it going to be more stimulus? And here's the big question, who is the stimulus going to go to? Is it going to go to the people, or is it going to be more corporate welfare? So far, we've seen the amount of corporate welfare 1,000 times what we've seen as far as welfare or assistance that goes to Main Street or the middle class, the working class. All right, we've seen tens of thousands of small businesses get wiped out, while the multinational mega corporations, they continue to not just maintain but increase their profits, and many of them saw record jumps in their profits this year, even amidst the lockdown recession. All right, and it gets to the point where it becomes obvious that this was done by design. Now, coming out of the financial crisis, 2008, 2009, 2010, it took massive stimulus, bank rescue operations, aka bailouts, and massive debt accumulation to give the appearance of an economic recovery. Now, was it really a recovery, or was it just a debt binge that temporarily created jobs because of all the spending, the lending, and the spending? And we know that all types of debt have increased since the financial crisis. Household debt altogether, credit card debt, mortgage debt, student loan debt, car loan debt, it all increased. So this debt binge created a pretty good looking economy, because what happens when people go out and spend money and borrow money and buy things that they don't have money to buy? Well, it creates jobs. It creates this illusion of an economic boom, and things were starting to fall apart even before the lockdown recession. So are they going to be able to put out enough stimulus again to create another false economic boom, or the illusion of an economic recovery? Or is there going to be much more dire consequences this time? We're at 27 trillion in the national debt, and it's over 70 trillion if you look at all the unfunded liabilities. It's debt that can never be paid back. If they try to take more money out of the people, then it's going to get even worse, because a lot of people are barely getting by and not getting by right now. If you look at the number of people on unemployment, the number of people on in food lines, right? Topics that we cover here quite a lot, right? So there's a good and there's a bad side of all the stimulus. The good side is it delays the collapse, all right? But it's really bad, because the longer you keep this failed economic illusion propped up or keep it functional, then the worse the collapse is going to be. And there are people that think this is never going to turn, that The central bank's always going to be there. The Fed's always going to be there to support the markets, to put stimulus in different places, to keep the too big to fail corporations and all the zombie corporations, which is about 1 in 5 right now. The zombie corporations keep them alive, keep them functional. And yes, that may keep some jobs from vanishing by keeping these failed companies operational, but in the long run, sometimes at some point it has to come to an end, and that's what we prepare for here when it comes to an end. And it's going to come to an end. The question is when and how bad is it going to be, and how do we need to prepare? Well, we talk about that and a lot more here, but first let's talk about food preparation. At Turpalska tweeted out the following at Ice Age Farmer. Here's one from New Jersey, and this is according to this article, North Bergen, New Jersey. These are empty store shelves, so it's more than just toilet paper that people are hoarding. And this is what I want to talk about, inflation. When most of the stimulus goes to the mega corporations, then typically you don't see inflation because the money doesn't get down to the people, and you don't notice the rise in prices as bad. Prices are still rising, but when you have a lot of stimulus going out to the people, and therefore you have people that really don't have money to spend, but now they do have money to spend because of the stimulus, that's when you start seeing more shortages of goods and items, and therefore rising prices. But when the stimulus stays at the top or stays within the banking system, then you don't really see inflation rise that wickedly. All right, but what if there is some sort of UBI on the horizon? What if people get several $1,000s a month? What if everybody gets several $1,000s a month? Well, you're going to see a massive boom in retail. You're going to have a lot more people buying and bidding up the prices of assets and goods. And then the people that are saving, the people that aren't getting the handouts, well, they're in trouble because you have all these people buying all these products, and we know that we're about 70% in the United States, we're about 70% a consumer economy and very little manufacturing. Well, you're going to start seeing more empty shelves, more shortages of not just food but other supplies, and therefore rising prices because you have that supply and demand imbalance. All right, so that's when you really start seeing inflation pick up. And we've seen it happen in other countries. We've seen Venezuela and a couple others where their currency in those countries gets obliterated because the people get handed out money to spend, but there's not enough product because there's not enough production. Right? So a lot of spending and not enough production, then you start seeing the dangerous rising prices. And that's why I continue to say here in this channel, hedge yourself against that possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but I think it's going to happen eventually. It's going to be the inflation, or it could be devastating deflation. I know that sounds like not much help because it could go either direction, but that's the reality. If I could have a crystal ball and tell you exactly what's going to happen, I would, but we have to prepare for both scenarios. Right? Now some people say, JJ, you're contradicting yourself. Well, no, it's just that you need to prepare for both because both scenarios can happen, because this is why. It's a manipulated economy. There's a group of people that decide what's going to happen. They could easily, and especially now with the new administration possibly taking over in January, they could easily really change the ballgame here and start handing out more stimulus to people. We could see universal basic income. We could see massive rescue programs and massive debt forgiveness. What's going to happen when 100 million people get all of their debt eliminated? Right? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it's possible. There could be a politician that comes along and says debt eliminated. Well, then you would likely see a spending boom because people would say, hey, I got all this debt erased. I'm going to go out and spend more because now I have no debt. Right? That could also create more inflation because you would see a boom and a lot of people buying things that they normally would not be able to buy. Right? So what I'm getting at here is, in a manipulated economy, you have to prepare for anything. Unless you're a mind reader, unless you know what these people have planned for us, you don't know exactly what to prepare for. That's why I say prepare for both. And some of you disagree. Some of you say at 100% it's going to be inflation. Some of you say 100% it's going to be deflation, right? So let me know down in the comments, and let me know what direction you're leaning, or if you're also like me, you're preparing for both because there's no way to know exactly. All right, but speaking of hedging against inflation and precious metals, let's take a look at the gold price in some of these countries that have handed out massive stimulus to the people and therefore saw massive price inflation and massive destruction of their currency. All right, let's take a look at the gold price in Venezuela. Per ounce, around $445 million per ounce gold. All right, and it's not just gold that went up. Gold just went up because of the currency was destroyed, but the price of everything went up. I mean, in some cases, it would take tens of thousands of dollars just to buy a meal, right? Several $100s for some eggs. I mean, just insane prices across the board, and that's where having an asset that's going to also inflate in price is your protection, right? So if somebody has something that you want, let's say they have some food, are they going to want your wheelbarrow full of paper? Are they going to want precious metals? Let's take a look at the gold price in Lebanon, another country that saw massive financial pain and inflation. Gold per ounce there, $2,700,000. That's Lebanon. Here is Tanzania, $4,159,000 per ounce of gold. Let's take a look at Iran, $75,515,000 for an ounce of gold. Right, and of course these countries have their own currency, and we usually see the little currencies fall first. And yes, the dollar is still king, but remember, all it takes is a change in the type of stimulus that's being handed out. Once it gets handed out more to the people and less at the top, then you start seeing the inflation, and that is the danger. I think they're going to start handing out more to people. Universal basic income, a few years ago, people thought that was some kooky idea. Now it's mainstream, and now with the new administration that could be taking over in January and implementing that, we have to prepare for that. That's about all for this report, everybody. Link down below, SD Bullion. I'm stacking. There was a big price pullback in silver. That is a buying opportunity in my opinion. Link down below. You help the channel out by using that link. Protect yourself now. Everybody, thanks for watching. Stay well, stay prepared, stay safe. Peace. Bye for now.